Holy City Center Radio. It is episode number 43, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. So happy to have you back here for another week. We've got a good show here for you today. My guests are Noah Drake Bell and Dustin Vitale of Cloudy Sky Entertainment. They are a film, web, and marketing production company. They've created a YouTube show recently called Hollywood Interviews that targets actors, directors, and crew who help make Charleston-based movies and TV shows. They've had guests from shows like the Righteous Gemstones, the movie Halloween, and of course Outer Banks, the big show on Netflix. And they talk to these guys about how much fun they have and why they love working in Charleston. So I'm excited to hear more about their company and some of the folks they've spoken to. Otherwise, just gonna, had a nice week and to catch you up on what I've been up to. As I mentioned in the last episode, my parents are in town. It's been awesome having them, around every day to hang out with, talk to, and go do fun things around town. They brought their dog Tess, which is always great. So, when she's in the mood, I have a dog that I can snuggle with for a little bit. Unfortunately, my cat is not happy about this development and tends to hide upstairs under my bed and things like that because he's petrified of their dog, who's the sweetest dog in the world. But poor kitty is very sad every time my family comes to visit. But we've been having lots of fun. Nothing too exciting. We've, just done some of the typical things we do, going out to eat. We love going to Martin's Barbecue, so we did that the other night. We went to James Island County Park and just sat out in the sun. We were all reading books and chit-chatting this past Sunday afternoon, which was really great, just spending time together and relaxing, just doing little things like that. We've started some projects around the condo. We got new floors coming in, which is great. You may remember the story I told about the cabinet that came crashing down one night. Thankfully, the cabinet was in good enough shape that my dad was able to get it up back on the wall, and he secured it way better than whoever originally installed it. So thank God for my dad and my mom coming and helping with projects. Otherwise, who knows how long that cabinet would have sat on the ground and before I finally hired someone to do it, because there's no way I would have been able to figure this out. My dad is very much the handyman type guy. He knows how to fix things. He's very smart when it comes to all that kind of stuff. And that apparently has skipped a generation as I lack the interest and know-how to know how to do any of these things. He's always helping out with projects and stuff with the car and whatnot. And, my mom, same way, always in the house, tidying up, cleaning and doing some stuff. So it's nice to have them here. It's it's provided a nice break from my normal day-to-day activities, and it's been great. Outside of that, I've done a couple things without them. I finally went to the Credit One Charleston Open. It's gone by other names in the past, but it's the women's tennis tournament. I had never been, so I was excited to have my first experience. I really like the setup. The stadium's got some new amenities. It just looks a little bit nicer. So I think a lot of you, when you go visit for summer concerts, are really going to enjoy it. And I didn't really know what to expect, but there's this whole outdoor area, like village, where they had vendors and food and drinks and other tennis courts where, people would practice, and some of the earlier rounds were held, and just like a whole vibe of this community down there of tennis fans, sport fans, and people like myself who were just kind of there to take in the scene. So it was really cool. And I had no idea what was going on with the tennis matches I was watching, but it was enjoyable nonetheless. Being able to just be out, and the weather was really nice. Got a little chilly, so I ducked out kind of early that evening. But a cool side story to me leaving early. I was really frustrated because, as you probably are aware, there's no parking out there. And in the past, when you would try to park, if you tried to park where that plaza is, with the supermarket and all the other businesses right across the street from the stadium, you used to probably could get away with that. But as I pulled in, I noticed a lot of people in the same color polo shirts just kind of milling around throughout the entire parking lot. So I realized pretty quick that somebody must have been hired to make sure people weren't parking in front of these businesses and then walking over to the tournament. So I had to go park far away and take a school bus from the parking lot that I was in to the stadium, which was not fun. But because of all that, as I was waiting for the bus on my way back to the car, this woman steps out of the bus going into the stadium. She looked really familiar. And I was like, was that Serena Williams? And I was like, no, it can't be. She's not playing in this tournament. No, it can't be. Hop on the bus. And then the bus driver, someone else asked because they must have seen her too. And the bus driver was like, yep, that was Serena Williams. She's been here all week. So was within like inches of the iconic and incredible Serena Williams. Wish I had a better story. Like I said, hi to her. I got a picture, an autograph, but no, walking by her. But being in her presence of greatness was pretty cool. So that was a nice little added bonus, as silly as it is. Let's see. What else did I do? Oh, another fun thing that I wanted to mention real quick. Just the other day, I went out to Firefly Distillery. For those who haven't been there, it's over in North Charleston, the Park Circle area now. Really big property. And in the back of their parking lot, there is kind of an unassuming shipping container. You would probably just think it's storage or something like that. There's no signage. You don't really know what it is. Well, it turns out it is actually a business called King Tides Farm. They're one of those, indoor hydroponic businesses where they're growing, all sorts of different greens, microgreens, things like that inside. Everything's climate controlled. It's all done. You can be all done, virtually if they want to. They don't have to be in the container. This gentleman could do it from home. His name is Hamilton Horn, who runs the business. And I met him. He's a fun guy. He had a lot of fun stories. He's really excited about his new business. And, I'd seen businesses like this. There's Vertical Roots who are doing similar things in Charleston. But this is my first time actually being in one of these containers. And it was pretty cool seeing the whole setup, seeing how, it's all run via computer, which is pretty amazing. And I was able to see the different stages of growth that they have for these microgreens. And his goal is, of course, to have some of these in restaurants around town and, maybe do like a CSA style thing where you can order, like certain heads of lettuce, every week or whatever it may be. You can check out the website for more info. But it was just really cool learning about the whole process and how there's different colored lights that he can shine on these plants that will lead them to do different things, and really informative and cool. And the best part was he let me try this green that is called wasabi arugula. And it's called that because it literally tastes like wasabi. And I was blown away when he was like, here, just try this little leaf, put it in my mouth, chewing on it, and could not believe just like the taste of wasabi from this green. And so I guess he told me he's brought it around to a couple restaurants, and they have been like, oh, this is cool. So what'd you do? Like dip it in wasabi? And he's like, no, I just grew it. It just tastes like this. So I would not be surprised if you start seeing that showing up maybe in cocktails or at restaurants as a side dish. So keep an eye out for it. It's a pretty unique offering that I've never heard of before. And even Hamilton said he didn't know about it until whoever he was, purchasing seeds from told him about it. So really cool. So be on the lookout for King Tides Farm. They will probably be popping up in restaurants and events and things like that around town. There was a big story that I want to cover, but I'm going to save it because I feel like I really want to deep dive into it because there's a lot of ins and outs about it. But I recommend you do some of your own research because it's a really big story. There's a 19-year-old man by the name of Bowen Turner. His court case has been making headlines around town for bad reasons, unfortunately. Mandy Matney of the Murdoch Murders podcast actually dedicated an episode to this case, so I recommend you check it out. She did a phenomenal job, as always, of the ins and outs of what's going on. But the gist of it is this guy was accused of sexual assault and rape on 3 separate occasions, and he violated his house arrest order that people, no one was checking on it. He violated it many, many times until finally someone brought it to the attention of authorities. Despite all of that, in the end, charges were dropped in 2 of the cases. And in the one case, he entered a plea deal and he got 5 years probation. That is it. No jail time, does not have to register as a sex offender. And it should be not shocking to hear he has ties to some prominent people in the state. So just what appears to be a horrible miscarriage of justice. And I recommend, like I said, If you're not already listening to Murdoch Murders podcast, be sure to check that out because it's good anyway. But their most recent episode is dedicated to this case. And some of the local news outlets are starting to pick up the story as well. Just an awful story, but I think it's important for all of you to know about it. And yeah, I plan on talking about it a little bit more once I, look into it a little bit and make sure I have all the details, but wanted to make sure you were all aware of that. So that's what's going on now. There's all sorts of other stuff happening with my parents in town and busy schedule lately. I haven't put together a whole lot of topics, but we'll get into all the important things in future episodes. For now, that's it. Let's move on to some good, happy stuff. We're going to have this discussion right now with Noah and Dustin from Cloudy Sky Entertainment. As I mentioned before, they have all sorts of stuff going on that we're going to learn about. But one particular show that they have created is called Hollywood Interviews that you can find on YouTube. A lot of Charleston-based people are in that, as well as actors and crew that have come to Charleston for some of the shows that film here. So this is a really interesting talk. I think you all enjoy it. So here it is now, my interview. Joining me now are my guests, Noah Drake Bell and Dustin Vitale of Cloudy Sky Entertainment. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today on Holy City Center Radio.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
And since I've got two of you on the line today, we want to make sure everyone knows who is who. So if you could just introduce yourselves real quick and I guess what your role is with Cloudy Sky Entertainment. Dustin, we'll start with you.
Name's Dustin Vitale, a.k.a. Nerdy Dustin. I am a director and producer, and I'm co-owner of Sky Entertainment.
Perfect. And go ahead, Noah.
I'm Noah Drake Bell, actor, writer, producer, a little bit of everything, but with Cloudy Sky Entertainment. Dustin and I are both also background artists here locally for productions such as the Righteous Gemstones, OBX, and things like that.
Oh, nice. I'm excited to hear about, all of it, but also that. I didn't realize you guys also did some background work and things, so that's pretty great. Before we dive into what you're up to these days, if you could just provide a little bit of a background about yourself as far as, if you're from here or not, how you got here, just so people have kind of an idea of who you are. And again, we'll start with Dustin.
I am I'm an Air Force brat, so I was born up in the Midwest on an Air Force base, but we moved down here when I was a kid, and I've been in South Carolina pretty much ever since. I'm originally from the Carlton County, Walterboro, South Carolina area. Started doing film work back in 2015, and in 2019, I started doing it as a career and doing it regularly. Teamed up with Noah during the Righteous Gemstones season 2, and partnered with him, and we formed Cloudy Sky Entertainment. Now we kind of just do our own things.
Very cool. And go ahead, Noah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm from the mountains of Western North Carolina, a tiny little town called Silva. Give all your listeners a point if they know where that's at, but it's about 40 miles west of Asheville. Moved down in 2017, live in Somerville. Moved down to open up Comfort Suites Hotel. I'm in the hotel business. That's my quote unquote real job. Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And still in that business today. I work in Mount Pleasant at a Home 2 Suites. But always loved movies. I'm an 80s kid, born in 83. So those classic films really got me into the entertainment business. I had a small part in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is an Oscar-winning film that was filmed in Silva. Was kind of lucky enough to get into Halloween when it came down here to a certain capacity. And then I was hooked on Charleston, hooked on the acting bug. And yeah, Dustin and I we do interviews with local talent to promote the industry here in the South Carolina region, specifically Charleston. And we're still making videos daily and producing our own films and television and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Very cool. So let's talk about Cloudy Sky Entertainment. I guess the background story. How did it exactly come to be? And, what sort of programming and things do you all do with it?
I came to Noah one day and I was like, hey, I don't really want to do the acting thing anymore personally. I'd like to just kind of start making my own stuff. And I knew he was really big into this stuff. So I was like, hey, would you want to form a partnership and make our own company and start making our own content? And he was on board right away. He said, oh, heck yeah, let's do this. So we did it. We started a show called Hollywood Interviews, where we contacted directors, actors, producers, and started interviewing them. And now it's kind of morphed into like a geek culture nerd type of show. And then on the side, here recently we've been doing short films, and hopefully we should be getting those out to the festival scene here very soon. So yeah, it's pretty much how it started and where it's going.
Well, that's really cool. I knew a little bit about it, and I looked into, your YouTube account, was looking at some of the videos and things, but I didn't realize you were looking to, have your own short films and productions like that. So that's really exciting, and you're both kind of jack of all trades when it comes to the entertainment industry, it seems.
Absolutely. And my big push and my platform, this is the hill I'll die on, is that South Carolina needs more film credit. Tax incentives.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason that this glorious state in this area, specifically the Low Country in Charleston, is just a magnificent backdrop. Some of the greatest films of all time have been filmed in South Carolina. So that's kind of where my mind was at when we started Cloudy Sky Entertainment too, specifically getting folks on the Hollywood interview circuit that have worked here with us in Charleston on the Righteous Gemstones and projects like that, because we do, as South Carolinians, deserve more, film opportunities. It brings so much revenue to the area, and it creates jobs, and there's a huge need for it. So that's kind of the platform that we also push inside of our pop culture and our movie reviews and all that stuff. That's what we always hearken that, let's bring some more spotlight to South Carolina as a filming location, and let's talk to the people in the offices up in the bigwigs and, get them to get more tax incentives for South Carolina.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit, and then you guys can jump in at anything I might have missed. But for those who don't know, there are, as you just mentioned, the tax incentives are offered to productions if they come to this area to film, whether it's TV or movies and whatnot. And they've really increased, or that's become more of a story over the last few years, especially with Danny McBride and his company coming here and doing shows like Vice Principals and Righteous Gemstones. And he even went to the State House a few years ago, I think pre-pandemic, to push for more incentives, because there's only a certain amount, if I remember correctly. I don't know if it's the dollar amount or the amount of productions per year they allow that can get these incentives to try to bring productions here. And they've been pushing to, try to get more of those so we can get even more productions. And like you said, they bring in jobs, they bring in money. People come into town like, oh, I want to see that spot I saw on the show, or what have you. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where it stands right now, but that's definitely something that's being talked about in your industry, is getting more of those incentives.
Absolutely. We've spoken to Danny about this as well. You're right. He did go to the State House to champion this. I believe it is 3 distinct productions a year, whereas if you even down just an hour and a half to Savannah is the entire state of Georgia. And we all know that Atlanta as well is a huge, it's pretty much the Hollywood of the South. So I know Danny is pushing it, Jody, all of the people of Rough House Pictures, and Beer Camping, that as well. Yes, it's definitely something that I believe will happen in the future if enough people want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as more, when this opportunity comes up again to talk about these incentives, I'll be sure to pass along information so people can contact the appropriate folks. I know right now that it may not be forefront. There's a lot of stuff going on with the legislation, but we'll be sure to share that news. They just hit the crossover deadline. We don't need to dive into that too much, but they're basically done taking new legislation ideas, there's for this year. But in any event, all right. So you guys have this company. You're offering all sorts of different types of programming, like you mentioned, and the show that you mentioned, Hollywood Interviews. You're talking to all sorts of folks that are involved in these Charleston-based movies and TV shows. Tell me a little bit more about this show. What are some of the who are some of the guests that you've had? Have there been any memorable moments or any big gets for you so far?
We've interviewed quite a few of the Gemstone casts, from Gavin Wilde to James Dumont, Emma Shannon, but we've also interviewed other actors from popular shows like Euphoria, and then me and Noah, we're like really big into the 80s pulp culture of films. So we were able to grab some of those people that we've, been in love with our whole lives, like Beatrice Buckley. She plays Amanda Kruger in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. We were able to interview Mark Holton from Teen Wolf and Pee Wee Herman's movies. So we also pulled people like directors and producers like Brian Volkweiss, who does those shows on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, The Movies That Made Us. So we try to grab everybody we can from all different aspects of the film industry to get their take on, what they do behind the scenes and things like that. We even had the assistant director to The Talk on for an episode, Carlos, which was a lot of fun. We got a lot of inside access to what goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Very
cool. Yeah. And I learned a little bit about the industry because of the productions that have come down here. I've done some background work on a couple of things over the years, and I had a really good friend who got involved in it and provided me with like a lot of the background and how things work, and has worked for years on The Walking Dead down in Atlanta and some other productions. So I think what a lot of people hear about the shows being here, of course, they think about the big celebrities behind it. Your Danny McBride, that we've mentioned before, and everybody wants to talk about that. But it's really fascinating learning about how the productions work, all the behind the scenes things, and what like day-to-day life is on a set. It's really, really fascinating. It sounds like you all are getting folks that can provide that insight, and obviously you both can do that as well. That type of stuff is really, really interesting to learn how productions are made and how locals are getting involved in these big shows.
Absolutely. Yes. And when the casting calls go out for these shows, they just sign up, take the chance, send an email to the casting director, and then you get to learn all of this awesome behind the scenes stuff yourself. You get to see the cameras being moved. You get to see the on-set talent. You get to experience craft services, every little aspect that you can. And it's really fascinating. For the next season of the Hollywood interviews and some of the new interviews we have coming up, we're going to get some of the people who are PAs, costume designers, special effects artists. We did have some special effects artists for this season too, but it's just so fascinating. It's fun too. That's, at the end of the day, it is incredibly fun. You get to, experience what it's like to be in your favorite TV shows, meet really cool people, learn some stuff, have some great food, and also get paid for it.
I'm glad you mentioned Crafty. I always hear about how great Crafty is on
100%. set. So actually, Righteous Gemstones, it was phenomenal.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's got to be really cool that you've been involved with, with Danny McBride's company, Rough House Pictures or Productions. I forget the official name, but Rough House.
Rough House Pictures.
Pictures. Thank you. And just what they've brought, not just obviously the cool thing about having shows filming here, but just bringing basically like a set production, because as long as he's living here, chances are he's going to want to film things here. And they've moved, some of their staff here out from, California and things. So that's got to be a really cool experience dealing with, any production that comes here, but specifically one that is invested in the Charleston area and wants to stay here.
Yes, absolutely. Danny did an interview on Chris Hart, Kevin Hart's, so I'll get it in a minute, Kevin Hart's podcast, where he said he's not going anywhere. Him and a bunch of his creative partners fell in love with Charleston. They want to raise their kids and their families here. So this is conjecture. It's not 100%. We know that Righteous Gemstones has been picked up for season 3, but the talk on the set from everyone was they want to make it a season 8, maybe even a season 10 type of show. So we have it for the long run. And if it doesn't make it that far, Danny in Rough House, they're going to do something else. But they also have really good community events too. So Rough House Pictures partners with like Frothy Beard to do a trivia night, and they're always going to the Park Circle art walks. It's fantastic because sometimes if you think Hollywood and productions, you think that's on a next level. Whereas Rough House Pictures really are in the soil, in the ingrained in Charleston, in the community, which is something I admire highly from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, not just, flying in, filming something and flying out, which nothing wrong with that, of course. They just want, that's how productions work sometimes, but really cool that they've decided to stay here and not just be here, but invest in the community and be involved. You touched on the Frothy Beard collaboration they've done, and I've seen them pop up, like at the Captain's Comics Expo recently. They had a table there with their merch and everything. So it's awesome seeing them be involved, and that's got to be great for you all. Having a company that's dedicated to the entertainment industry, being able to know that there's going to be something here, again, on a consistent basis is got to be nice for what you all have planned. But even if not, it sounds like you're able to get people, no matter where they live, to guest on your show. So regardless of what's happening in Charleston, there'll always be people to speak with, I'm sure.
Plus side and the upside of the pandemic is a lot of people are available via Zoom, so we can talk to. We had one interview with a young lady in Dublin, so the scheduling is the hardest part, when time zones and things like that. But you're absolutely correct. We can talk to anybody at any time as long as they have a 30 minutes to an hour to kill and they're passionate about what they do.
Very cool. And what we talked about the show Hollywood Interviews. What other programming you've touched on a little bit? Where I think you said it was like kind of like nerd culture in general. Is there any other like specific series you both are doing, or is it all just kind of like, if something new comes up, you'll record a show for it, or are there other set things that you do? Whether it's weekly, monthly, or recurring segments.
So right now Hollywood Interviews is the only actual like show we do. Everything else is kind of like when stuff happens. Like yesterday, me and Noah recorded a hour-long breakdown of episode 3 of Moon Knight. So like
nice.
When something happens, we talk about it. When something new comes out, like Noah did a video the other day where he went on and recorded one of his toy hunts that he did. So it's just anything that encompasses nerd or geek culture. We just pick up our cameras and we start recording.
Very cool.
Now, the film stuff we've done. So we've done one film so far that's on our YouTube page. It's called the 100th Anniversary Rift of Nosferatu. And then we just shot a short film last week that we just finished and should be out sometime next week called Rideshare Massacre, which is pretty cool. And then we're currently working on doing a Western short that we had a friend of ours who's a musician out in Nashville write us music for the short. We're doing a lot.
Yeah, it does. Sounds like that's incredible. You guys are putting out, so much content, and it's all things that I'm sure a lot of my listeners will be interested in. Especially talking about Moon Knight. I know a lot of people are watching everything Marvel, myself included. So I'm definitely going to check out the review since I just watched the episode last night myself. And I noticed on some of your videos, you mentioned the toy hunt. Behind you guys on some of your videos, you have all these toys and memorabilia and stuff, and it looks great. Do you guys have like a particular, whether it's a toy, figure, piece of memorabilia that's like your favorite, something like really cool that you found, or just something that you really, really like?
My coolest item, and I even made a video about it a while ago on my TikTok. So Chris Pratt has a brother, Cully. And Cully makes these like wooden trays for like your keys and stuff like that. And he actually made me one a couple of years back, and I still have it. And the coolest thing about that tray is I struck up a friendship with him, and now me and Cully are still friends to this day. So it means a lot to me, and it's just the coolest thing.
You're just a couple degrees of separation away from Star-Lord, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, you're basically best friends with Chris Pratt. All right.
That's what I heard, yeah. You guys are BFFs and you text all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, it's a couple things. One is my favorite film of all time is Jaws. It made me want to go in the water, not go out of the water. Locally, and that's the thing here, too, about everyone that's listening. I won't give away my total secrets, but there are a lot of great thrift stores around. Go check them out. Support local, shop local if you can. I found a lobby card for the movie Jaws, not a poster, but an authentic lobby card. They would sit on the counter, buy the popcorn, and it was framed. I found a local thrift store. That was a really cool, because you don't see that. It's a very rare piece of memorabilia. That was super awesome. And I was gifted a couple props from the set of season 2 of Righteous Gemstones. The baptism scene where BJ got baptized and the after party, and then some scripts from the show and some of the program guides that were printed that was gifted to me by some people on set. But that scene is hilarious and one of the funniest scenes in a comedy period. So
it was pretty great. No, that's awesome. That's some pretty incredible things you guys have been able to find or be gifted, which is awesome. Before we wrap things up, is there anything we didn't touch on that you guys are doing or that you think is important involving your company or productions in town that you think people should know?
I'll say if you're listening out there and you've always thought about just making some kind of content but you're hesitant about it, just do it. Some of the best advice I've gotten over the past couple of years is wake up every single morning, grab your phone, grab your camera, and just make content. And I've lived by that every single day for the past 3 years straight. I have made some kind of content, be it YouTube, be it my TikTok, be it working on a production in Atlanta or Charleston. Like, yeah, if you want to make content, just do it. Just make that content. Don't let anything hold you back.
Yes, agreed. Very good.
Absolutely. And for me, when we are creating these projects, there's a wealth of people in the Charleston area that are makeup artists, that are, designers, that are actors. So we try to use those folks, utilize the people that are local. There are a lot of Facebook groups for people who are interested in the act of filmmaking and television and all of that. Charleston Filmmakers is one of them. Find a lot of really great groups that are always posting independent projects and the needs. Not just the big productions. There's a lot of small things that are happening in the area. We had talked about doing a travel type show that highlights Charleston in general, but in a like our style, in a geeky way. So that is going to probably be on the back burner, and something's going to happen here soon where we do that, where we highlight all of the major points here in this great city that we all live in, and to hop by Frothy Beer, the set of the Righteous Gemstones, all this fun stuff. And that's kind of a long stretching project we have coming up down the line.
Very good. Nice. So you're talking about these projects. We've talked about stuff that's already out there, and you guys are mentioning things in the future. Regardless of what people are interested, what's the best way for them to see everything you're putting together and stay up to date on everything you have coming up?
Hit us up on YouTube. We're Cloudy Sky Entertainment. You can hit up Noah on Instagram at Noah Drake Bell, and you can hit me up on TikTok at Nerdy Dustin.
Very cool. I'll be sure to include all that in the show notes to make it easy for everyone to follow you all. And
appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate you guys coming on. I love what you guys are doing. I'll definitely, start really. I got to subscribe. First of all, I checked out a few videos, but have to subscribe to you all on YouTube right now to stay up to date, because this is all stuff that is really fascinating to me. And like I said, I'm just like everybody else in the world lately, really into all the Marvel stuff, and there's so many layers to it. So I'm sure you guys provide some great commentary, and I ask everyone who's listening, go check them out. And then once we have some more information about the incentives and things for the industry, I'll be sure to pass that on to my listeners and readers as well, because who wouldn't want to have more productions in town? It's really cool having them here for sure. So any event, thank you guys both for joining me today. It was really great learning about your company and the work you guys are doing, and I'm excited to see what else you all do in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm not even planning my day in Charleston if I'm not looking at holycitycenter.com. What you guys do, and that's phenomenal. So it's just actually kind of a dream to be on the show, because it's just such a cool thing that you guys are doing. So I appreciate that as well.
Oh, that's really kind of you to say. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And that is it, true believers. Had to take a Marvel thing there. Thank you to Noah Drake Bell and Dustin Vitale of Cloudy Sky Entertainment. It was really cool learning about what they're doing. I didn't know too much about them. I had some communication beforehand, like, hey, there's these guys doing the show, and I booked them and learned a little bit as we got into the interview. But that was great. Just talking to them, seems like two really cool guys that are doing something similar to what I'm doing, in the sense of they just want to do something on their own. And they said, what the hell, I'll do it. And I think that's pretty cool. And I always love stories like that where, people are doing their own thing and creating content, especially, of course, here in Charleston. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I'll definitely be keeping everyone, all of you listening, of any, of their projects or fun things that they've got going on. But in the meantime, go subscribe on YouTube, go check out what they're doing. You might not think so, but as I said in the interview, like learning about productions and what goes on behind the scenes is like endlessly fascinating. I don't think people realize how much work goes into all these productions, especially with people like them, background workers or actors that are a little bit further down on the call sheet, camera operators, sound, like there's just so much that goes into these, and they're just regular everyday people. When you think of movies and TV shows, you're thinking of the stars, you're thinking of the big name director and all that, but there's people putting in some really hard work, for long hours on these productions. And any friends I've had that have been involved, I'm always interested and fascinated with what they have to say. So be sure to check out their interviews because you'll find some pretty interesting things in there. But that's it for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you again next week. Some great guests coming up on the horizon. So I'm already excited. Just had a great interview, and I know there's more coming. It's nonstop excitement in Holy City Center land. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review, whether you're on Apple Podcasts. I heard you can do it on Spotify now too. I haven't looked into that, but so that could be completely false, but I heard another podcast where they said that you can now rate on Spotify. So please do so if you haven't. That helps out get this podcast into other people's ears. Also, if you want to support Holy City Center, you can do so always by sharing content, liking, retweeting, telling other people. But also, you can go to patreon.com/Holy City Center or go to holycitycenter.com/shop and pick up some merch and rock that around town, which would be pretty awesome for me to see out there. So, check that out. And, I think that is all the thank yous. No, of course. Thank you, Lindsay Marie Collins from LMC Sound System, who is going to put in some work producing and editing as always. And Tyler Boone also always deserves a thank you for letting us use his music in each and every episode. Another congrats to him, by the way. I just saw his Boone's Bourbon won another medal, which is pretty incredible. So congrats to him. They keep winning awards for that Boone's Bourbon, which is pretty cool. And yes, thank you to all of you. Have a great rest of your week. Good night and good luck.